In 1994, a Kurdish farmer in southeastern Turkey was plowing his field. He hit something hard. Archaeologists came. What they found changed everything we thought we knew about the beginning of human history. Carved stone pillars, detailed animal carvings, massive circular enclosures. The site is called Gobekli Tepe. That's Turkish for potbelly hill. It was built approximately 12,000 years ago. That's 7,000 years before Stonehenge, 6,500 years before the Egyptian pyramids. And here's the thing that nobody can explain. The people who built it, by everything we know about history before this discovery, shouldn't have been able to build it. The standard story of human history goes like this. For most of the Stone Age, humans lived in small wandering groups. They hunted, they gathered food, they had no permanent homes, no organized work, no writing, no engineering, no buildings. Then, around 10,000 BC, something changed. People started farming. Farming allowed permanent villages. Villages allowed people to specialize, and specialization allowed civilization. That's the sequence. But Gobekli Tepe breaks this sequence. The site dates back to approximately 9,600 BC. The T-shaped stone pillars weigh up to 20 tons. They were cut from rock, moved, and shaped with precision. The largest enclosure covers more than a football field. The people who built this, by all available evidence, were still hunter-gatherers. There were no farming villages in the area at the time, no permanent homes near the site, just the monument. Klaus Schmidt, the German archaeologist who led the digs until his death in 2014, concluded that this site may have flipped the conventional sequence. Rather than civilization producing religion and monument building, the ritual site may have come first and driven the development of farming around it. That's the official peer-reviewed conclusion published in Science and National Geographic. But there's something that makes this story even stranger. The star alignment at Gobekli Tepe. Researchers, including Giulio Magli of Milan Polytechnic, published a study in 2016 arguing that one of the main enclosures was oriented to face the rising point of Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky at the time of construction. Sirius was enormously important to ancient cultures. In Egypt, its appearance on the horizon marked the flooding of the Nile. In Mesopotamian tradition, it was linked to the gods. If the alignment is correct, the people of Gobekli Tepe weren't just building, they were watching the sky with real precision. They understood how the stars moved across seasons. They were tracking time at a scale that requires careful observation passed down across many generations. A separate study published in 2017 by researchers Sweetman and Sikritsis proposed that carved symbols at the site may encode information about an impact event around the year 10,950 BC, one that matches the timing of a major climate collapse. That claim is debated, other researchers disagree, but the star alignments themselves are harder to dismiss. Now, Gobekli Tepe itself wasn't hidden, it was buried. Deliberately buried. Around 8,000 BC, someone filled the enclosures in, carefully with soil and debris, and sealed them. The site was covered and abandoned. Why? Nobody knows. The more interesting question is why the meaning of the site took so long to filter into the wider conversation. Schmidt published his findings in the mid-1990s. Major academic papers followed in the 2000s. And yet, the standard version of history, with civilization beginning in Mesopotamia around 5,000 to 3,500 BC, was still being taught without much revision well into the 2010s. Part of it is how slowly institutions change. Textbooks are slow, academic fields are slow. But there's something more specific than that. The conventional timeline of human history is the foundation of entire academic departments, thousands of careers, hundreds of museum exhibits, decades of grant money. If the standard model is wrong, if complex civilization existed 12,000 years ago, not 5,000, then everything built on that model needs to be reconsidered. The people who would have to do that reconsidering are the same people who built their careers on the old model. How motivated would you be to actively promote evidence that your life's work was based on a wrong assumption. Part of it is the discomfort of not knowing. When your model of human history can't explain something, the easiest response is just to call it an outlier, ignore it, and keep going. And part of it is also that the people who built Gobekli Tepe left no writing, no name, no descendants that we can clearly identify. There's nothing to hold on to. The conversation that Gobekli Tepe started is now growing faster. Researchers are re-examining dozens of sites around the world that don't fit the standard model. Sites in Turkey, Malta, Indonesia, and India that show organized building at dates that predate what mainstream history calls civilization. Satellite archaeology, using LiDAR scanning and remote sensors to detect buried structures, has completely changed what we can find. Major sites are still being discovered. The big question that Gobekli Tepe raises is still open. What happened to the people who built this? The period known as the Younger Dryas, from roughly 12,900 to 11,700 years ago, saw rapid climate collapse, mass animal extinctions, and major rises in sea level. Whatever knowledge existed before that event was largely gone after it. Humanity may have had to start over. Here's what I want you to sit with. There is a monument in Turkey that is 12,000 years old. It was built by people who, by every model we had, could not have built it. It contains star alignments pointing to a star that was sacred to every major civilization that came after it. And then it was deliberately buried. The people who built it knew something was coming. Or they finished what they came to finish. Or maybe something else entirely. We just don't know. And here's something else worth knowing. The site at Gobekli Tepe is still less than 5% excavated. The Turkish government controls access. Decisions about what gets dug up and when are made by institutions with their own interests and timelines. What's still under the ground is, by definition, what no one has decided to look at yet. What we do know is that human beings figured out very early how to read the stars and how to build things that lasted. That knowledge, the practical, immediate knowledge of how to survive when the systems around you fail, is older than writing. What interests me about the people who built Gobekli Tepe is the kind of mind it required. Not just physical skill, but the capacity to plan across decades, to read the sky, to coordinate large groups around a shared vision. There's a free presentation that looks at research into this kind of integrated thinking and what the science suggests about accessing it deliberately. It's only 20 minutes, but it's well worth your time. You're not going to find it on YouTube, so I'll put a link to it in the description below. Check that out while it's still available. 12,000 years ago, someone built structures complex enough to require organized labor, knowledge of the stars, and planning passed down across many generations. Then, they buried it. Whatever they knew about surviving in a dangerous world, they couldn't take it with them, but the questions they left behind are still here. If you found this helpful and you'd like to learn more shocking science that's been buried by the modern scientific establishment, hit the subscribe button now and I'll see you in the next one.